Hello, everyone. Welcome to a bonus episode of Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. Today, I want to give you a quick word of encouragement about marriage, but first, a little story. I've had some bad experiences at the dentist. Years ago, I had a bad tooth. It needed a root canal. And so after a few years of avoiding the dentist, I finally made myself go and got that root canal. Absolutely worst experience ever. It lived up to its reputation. It was horrible. But it felt better temporarily, so I stopped going to the dentist for a few years again. I was afraid of the experience. It gave me anxiety. I just did not like going to the dentist. Well, guess what? Sometime later, I was having a lovely meal at a Panda Express, the last time I've ever eaten at a Panda Express, and that tooth broke. Having a tooth break in your mouth and you're separating the food particles from the piece of tooth in your mouth with your tongue, and the sickening realization is settling over you of what just happened. I've had nightmares about teeth breaking ever since then. Well, now the problem is visible, it is painful, it's unavoidable, and so it was time for another trip to the dentist. Multiple trips, in fact, this time ending with the dentist's knee on my chest as he summons all of his strength to pull the remnant of that broken tooth out of my skull. And now I have a new all-time worst experience at the dentist. It was horrible. So once again, I've had a horrifically painful experience, but now I'm left walking around with a gaping hole in my smile, and I feel like everyone knows what's happened to me. Well, this experience is followed by bone grafts and a dental implant procedure, and then finally a new fake tooth. I'm happy with the new tooth. If all my other teeth fall out, that one tooth will still be there probably until the day I die. But I went through a lot of pain and torment and money to lose that first tooth and get this new one. What frustrates me is that it was not inevitable that I had to lose the tooth and then get a replacement. I could have flossed more. I could have brushed more. I could have gone to the dentist more regularly as I had at other times in my life. All of that trouble probably could have been prevented with a little more effort, a little more diligence on my part. Not long ago, I had a cop tell me about a misunderstanding that he used to have. He said that when he got engaged, he was told by a family member to go with his fiancée to premarital counseling. Premarital counseling? He said, if I thought we needed counseling, then we shouldn't even be getting married. But that's not exactly true, is it? Counseling is not just for when something's terribly broken, especially premarital counseling, where you can identify problems and learn techniques and strategies to prepare yourself for the relationship you're about to enter. Living with somebody is hard. Living with someone long-term is really hard. It's worth it, but it's difficult. It would be really unusual for someone to accidentally be married for 50 years. You really do have to address the problems while they're small and be coached up on how to fix all of the problems, big and small, that will pop up over the course of your life. I believe that compromise or meeting halfway does not always work. Sometimes it has to be one or the other. There's not an in-between position that is even available to you. For instance, if you think you should wear brown shoes, but she thinks you should wear black shoes, compromising and wearing one of each is a terrible idea. So both halves of the couple are going to have to learn how to speak up for themselves, how to fight for what they truly believe is the correct path for the family to go. And that can be done lovingly and respectfully, where both sides are genuinely listening to each other. There's a whole technique to this. It's a skill that needs to be learned. And there are all kinds of people and resources over the course of your life that can help you learn how to do these things. But going to a counselor or a coach or some sort of helper to teach you how to be a successfully married person is kind of unavoidable if you want to be successful long term. So just like going to the dentist, going to someone with expert knowledge to help you figure out what's wrong and what the game plan should be going forward is essential to keeping the marriage healthy and happy. Look, I hate going to the dentist. It still makes me nervous. It still fills me with anxiety. But you know what I like? Teeth. A whole mouthful of perfect, healthy teeth. And if I could have, I would have kept all of my original ones. It would have been cheaper and a lot less painful. So please, don't wait until there's a serious problem to begin looking for a solution. Do premarital counseling of some sort before you get married. Go to marriage conferences and marriage classes while you're married, before you have problems. Read books and listen to podcasts. Be curious and hang out with people who are pro-marriage and specifically pro your marriage. I've been married for almost 30 years and I'm still learning and growing and changing to get better at this. Not only because I love my wife, but married people live longer and they're healthier and have higher rates of self-reported happiness. I like to joke that being married is the worst thing in the world, except for being single. And it is hard. But even people who value being alone don't want to be lonely. I've known a lot of cops who couldn't wait to get out of that toxic marriage with that crazy wacko that he was tied to. But then a few years later, and a few years wiser, he'd find himself getting married again because flying solo wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Look, I'm not advising that you pair up with the first person who will say yes. In fact, quite the opposite. I'd like people to slow down before they pick a sexual partner, before they move in together, before they get married, before they share property and houseplants. I think that very careful deliberation on the front end would prevent a lot of divorces on the back end. But falling in love and choosing to marry someone is probably something that will happen to you. In fact, it probably already has. And that means that you have something very valuable that you don't want to lose. And if you lose it, it'll come at great pain and great expense. So it's very much worth your time and your effort and your curiosity to figure out what can be done and what ought to be done and what others have done for centuries to have a long, happy, healthy marriage. And by the way, while you're planning that next marriage conference or the book on relationships that you're going to read, go ahead and make an appointment for the dentist also. You'll thank me later. The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components, though it ought to. If you like this episode, please share it with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain, and as always, pray for peace in our city.